Welcome to today's deep dive. We are tackling a challenge that I know you and pretty much anyone working in a digital environment right now is definitely facing.
Oh yeah, information saturation.
Exactly. You're likely dealing with this constant stream of new tools, shifting workflows, and just an endless barrage of data to process.
It is a lot to handle.
It really is. But what if we stopped looking at artificial intelligence as just another complex software suite to master?
Right, like another chore.
Yeah, and instead started treating it as a dedicated active teammate to help manage all that cognitive load.
What's fascinating here is that the source material we are examining today isn't a theoretical white paper from a research lab.
Thank goodness.
Right, and it isn't a promotional pitch from an AI company either. It is a highly practical, boots-on-the-ground account from a creator who has spent 3 years rigorously testing and refining a personal AI workflow.
3 whole years, yeah.
And what their experience reveals is a necessary fundamental shift in how we approach these tools. They are moving away from treating AI as a sophisticated search engine and instead using it as a dedicated support system for thinking.
And our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct that exact workflow. We're going to examine the author's notes, their specific processes, and the digital ecosystem they've built.
Because the application here is so broad.
Totally. Whether you are prepping for a major meeting, building an independent content business, or you're just insanely curious about boosting your own productivity, the goal is to provide you with a real-world blueprint.
A blueprint that actually works.
Yes, to leverage AI to organize your thoughts without getting bogged down in prompt engineering fatigue, which I think will be a major aha moment for you listening.
It is a vital distinction to make. Most people are still stuck in that early adopter phase of AI interaction.
Which is super limiting.
Exactly. It limits the potential of the tool and ultimately just leads to frustration.
So let's track the timeline to understand how that shift actually happens. The author notes they've been utilizing various LLMs for about 3 years.
Right.
But the real paradigm shift in their workflow didn't happen gradually. It crystallized on a very specific date, December 5, 2023.
And remembering an exact date like that usually indicates a hard pivot in how someone conceptualizes a problem.
Yeah, it was a light bulb moment. December 5th was the day they began learning Vietnamese.
Ah, okay.
Suddenly, they weren't just asking for quick coding snippets or grammar checks. They were dealing with a highly complex, nuanced, new challenge.
And their existing relationship with AI just wasn't cutting it anymore.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. In the early days, the author admits they used AI in what they call a give-and-take model.
Give and take.
Yeah, it was essentially treating the AI like a vending machine. You punch in a prompt, you get a discrete answer, and the transaction is over. You put in a coin, you get a snack.
The vending machine analogy is a perfect descriptor for the baseline use case we see across the entire industry.
Just totally transactional.
Purely transactional. You are asking for an isolated output without providing any broader context or seeking an ongoing dialogue.
But learning Vietnamese is different.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Learning a language requires nuance, cultural context, and iterative practice. The author quickly realized that if you are still just dropping coins into the machine, you are severely underutilizing the technology.
So the big shift that occurred was moving from that transactional model to what the author calls request and support.
Request and support, right.
They stopped treating the AI like a basic software tool and started treating it like a junior teammate on a collaborative project.
Precisely. And in a functional team environment, you don't just bark a single command at a colleague and walk away.
Yeah, you'd be a terrible manager.
You'd be awful. You establish a framework instead. The user makes a clear, context-rich request, and the AI provides structured, ongoing support.
A collaborative sharing of ideas.
Yes, until the project is finished. The AI helps plan, organizes chaotic inputs, and assists in the actual creation of the content. It's a much calmer, more insightful way to work.
I understand the theory of treating it like a collaborative project, but let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If I am super busy, engaging in an iterative back-and-forth dialogue with an AI sounds like it takes significantly more time than just writing a highly optimized one-shot prompt. Does this request and support model actually scale, or is it just creating more work?
That is the critical question.
Yeah.
And it feels slower initially because you are doing more upfront structuring.
Right, laying the groundwork.
But it scales exponentially better over time. A one-shot prompt might give you a quick answer today, but it doesn't build a foundation.
It's just a Band-Aid.
Exactly. The iterative request and support model is what allows the user to build a compounding library of knowledge. And that actually saves massive amounts of time down the line.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because to make that compounding library work, you have to feed the system something unique.
You can't just feed it fluff.
Right, we all know the old computing adage, garbage in, garbage out. The author argues that the secret sauce to this entire collaborative model isn't some complex series of jailbreak prompts.
No, it's original data.
Yes, providing the AI with high-quality original data.
This is the operational core of their 3-year workflow.
Yeah.
Most users feed AI generic data or ask it to generate ideas from scratch.
Which just yields generic, flattened results.
Exactly. The AI cannot operate optimally in a vacuum. It requires the idiosyncratic, highly specific raw material that only a human mind can generate.
So let's break down the exact mechanics of how the author handles this original data, because they outline a very deliberate 5-step workflow.
It's a great blueprint.
Step 1, the user writes their original ideas, and the author makes a point to say this initial brain dump is often messy, unstructured, and full of grammatical errors.
And that messiness is actually a feature, not a bug.
Really?
Yeah, the goal in step 1 is simply to capture the human spark, the unique perspective, the specialized knowledge, or the specific problem you were trying to solve.
Just get it on the page.
Exactly. If you try to self-edit and perfectly format your thoughts during this initial phase, you interrupt your own creative process. You just need to get the raw, flawed human data out of your head and onto a digital page.
Which brings us to step 2, moving that raw data into a centralized environment.
Crucial step.
The author specifically uses Google Documents to organize these initial thoughts. They aren't just leaving notes scattered across different apps or random physical notebooks.
They consolidate them.
Right, into a single digital workspace.
By centralizing the data in a cloud-based document, they're essentially building a sandbox for the AI to interact with.
A sandbox, I like that.
It removes the friction of formatting and platform switching. It also allows for seamless integrations later on, whether you're using browser extensions to scrape research directly into the doc, or utilizing API connections to feed that text right into an LLM.
Makes sense. So once that messy data is centralized, we hit step 3, which is where the request and support dynamic actually activates.
There we go.
The user brings the AI into the workspace and asks it to proofread, refine, and reorganize the text, basically fixing grammar and unclear sentences.
Now, we need to be very clear about what refine means in this context. The user isn't asking the AI to rewrite the piece entirely or generate new ideas.
They are using the AI purely as a structuring engine.
Yes. The prompt here is crucial. You are asking the LLM to take the fragmented logic of the original data, fix the syntax, clarify ambiguous sentences, and apply a logical hierarchy.
All while preserving the original intent.
Exactly.
But doesn't that introduce a massive risk of losing the author's voice?
It can.
Because if I hand over my raw notes to an AI and say, refine this, the output often sounds incredibly sterile. It reads like a robot wrote it.
That is a very real risk, which is why the initial original data has to be robust and the request has to be specific.
Yeah.
If your original data is just a bulleted list of 3 generic concepts, the AI will fill in the gaps with generic corporate speak.
Right, it has nothing else to work with.
But if your original data contains your specific anecdotes, your unique tone, and your actual arguments, the AI simply acts as a high-powered editor. It smooths the edges without replacing the core material.
That makes a lot of sense. It's the difference between asking a ghostwriter to write a whole book for you versus asking an editor to clean up your completed manuscript.
Perfect analogy.
So once that editing process is done, the author moves to step 4, locking in the results. They take that AI-refined text and save it as a strictly organized document, specifically citing PDF files.
Choosing to export to a PDF or a locked document format is a highly intentional mechanical step.
Why is that so important?
It ensures immutability. When you leave things in a dynamic workspace, they get overwritten, lost, or accidentally altered.
I've definitely done that.
We all have. By exporting the finalized, refined thought, you are officially declaring that piece of knowledge complete and stable.
And then step 5 is the taxonomy. They take those locked files and store them in meticulously categorized folders.
They don't just dump them into a master downloads folder.
Yeah. Oh man, the dreaded downloads folder. No, they tag and organize them based on topic, project, or concept.
And this transition from a raw idea to a polished, categorized file introduces the most powerful concept in the author's entire workflow.
Which is?
By continuously executing this five-step process, the author is generating what they call secondary data.
Secondary data. Okay, let's dig into that because it feels like the linchpin of the whole system.
It absolutely is. Let's trace the data pipeline. You start with original data, your messy, highly personal insights.
Right.
You run it through the AI structuring engine. The output is improved data. This improved data is now your secondary data.
Got it.
By rigorously saving and categorizing these files, the author isn't just taking notes. They're systematically constructing a personalized, searchable knowledge graph.
So instead of starting from zero every single time they have a new project, they are building a reservoir of their own highly refined AI-polished thoughts.
Precisely. They are building an internal database filled exclusively with high-signal, pre-vetted information that still retains their unique perspective.
That's incredibly powerful.
It fundamentally changes how you approach future tasks because your baseline starting point is just drastically elevated.
That perfectly transitions into how the author actually deploys this database. Having a categorized folder of PDFs is great for personal reference, but the author uses this workflow as a massive content multiplier.
Oh yeah, they scale it up.
They take one single piece of that secondary data and explode it into multiple different formats.
Because the secondary data is already logically structured and grammatically clean, it serves as the perfect foundational input for subsequent AI requests.
The author details how they feed a piece of secondary data back into the AI tools and instruct the system to transform it.
Right.
One refined idea becomes the script for a YouTube video.
Then they use that same data to generate a comprehensive review article.
Next, they extract the core metrics to build an infographic. They prompt the AI to format the arguments into presentation slides.
They build out longer educational materials.
And finally, distill it all down into executive summaries. It is one core concept multiplied across a half-dozen mediums.
What you are describing is essentially a highly efficient retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG, pipeline, but managed on a personal level.
A personal ARG pipeline.
Exactly. The user retrieves their own verified secondary data, augments their current prompt with it, and generates tailored outputs.
This is why the request and support model scale so effectively.
Yes, the heavy lifting, the critical thinking and structuring was already done when the secondary data was created. The AI is simply executing formatting protocols at this stage.
But wait, if someone is just multiplying one idea into 6 different pieces of content using AI, aren't we just contributing to the massive flood of digital noise?
That's a fair point.
We are already so saturated with AI-generated articles and videos that don't actually say anything new.
That is a valid critique of how many people use these tools today. However, the author is very explicit about their motivation here, which grounds the entire ecosystem.
Right, the human element.
Exactly. They are sharing these videos, slides, and articles across their platforms with a fundamentally human objective. They are hoping to educate someone, offer a useful solution, or provide genuine inspiration.
So the intent isn't just to game an algorithm with sheer volume. It's to communicate a genuinely held original idea as widely as possible.
Exactly. The technology acts as a distribution amplifier, but the core asset being distributed is still human insight.
And to manage that distribution, the author relies on a very streamlined tech stack.
It's remarkably simple.
Let's talk about that stack, because the source material points out how accessible it actually is. You don't need a massive enterprise server to do this.
No, you don't. The author's infrastructure is surprisingly lean but highly integrated.
What are they using?
They use Google Workspace, specifically Docs, and Google Cloud Storage as the central hub. They utilize various Chrome browser extensions to easily capture data and interface with different platforms.
Picking it all in the browser.
Right. And they connect all of this to advanced AI language models. What makes this effective is the total lack of friction.
Because it's all under one roof.
Yes. By unifying the environment through a single Google account ecosystem, they can effortlessly move data from a browser capture into a doc through an LLM via an API or direct copy-paste, and ultimately into structured cloud storage.
It's all about creating a seamless pipeline. If there is too much friction, if you have to open 4 different apps and manually migrate text files, the workflow breaks down and you just stop doing it.
Friction is the enemy of compounding workflows.
Totally.
By keeping the stack simple and centralized, the author ensures they actually complete the 5-step process every single time. And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
The global scale.
yes, we have to acknowledge the macro environment in which these specific LLMs are operating.
You mean the scale of the training data.
Exactly. The author reminds us that these AI systems are continuously evolving. Billions of people interact with these models annually.
Billions. That's a staggering amount of data.
It represents an unfathomable volume of user inputs, feedback loops, and data processing. Because of this massive scale, the underlying technology is constantly sharpening.
Right.
The context windows are getting larger, the logical parsing is getting more accurate, and the formatting capabilities are becoming incredibly sophisticated.
So what does this all mean? If the models themselves are improving exponentially due to billions of global interactions, where does that leave you, the individual user sitting at your keyboard? Does our specific input even matter anymore?
It matters more than ever. This brings us to the author's ultimate thesis, which firmly places the responsibility back on the individual.
Really?
Yes. Despite the massive server farms, the continuous updates, and the highly integrated cloud ecosystems, the starting point of value creation is always the user.
Garbage in, garbage out remains the law of the land.
Precisely. The AI, no matter how advanced, is fundamentally reactive. The quality, depth, and utility of its output depend entirely on the quality of the user's initial request.
The author breaks this responsibility down into what we can call a triad of prompting. When you approach the AI teammate, you are required to bring three distinct elements to the table.
Let's hear them.
First, you must provide the idea. We've covered this extensively. This is your raw, original data.
Right.
Second, you must provide the request. This is the mechanical instruction, like format this into a slide deck or proofread for clarity.
Mechanical, got it.
But the third element is what separates a basic user from a power user. The third element is intention.
An intention is where human critical thinking becomes absolutely non-negotiable.
How does intention differ from the request, though? If my request is, write an email based on these notes, isn't my intention just to send an email?
Not exactly. The request is the what, the intention is the why and the how.
Oh, give me an example.
Write an email is the request. The intention is a strategic constraint. Write an email to a non-technical stakeholder to clearly explain why this project needs a budget increase, prioritizing a reassuring and professional tone.
Ah, I see.
The intention dictates the nuance of the output. Are you trying to inspire a team? Are you trying to critically evaluate a competitor? Are you just summarizing a meeting for archival purposes?
So the AI can handle the syntax, the structure, and the formatting, but it cannot generate the strategic objective.
Exactly. The AI cannot provide your intention for you. If your original data is grounded, your mechanical request is clear, and your strategic intention is highly defined, the AI's support will be exceptional.
But if you bypass that critical thinking phase,
And just ask it to do the work, you will get a flattened generic result.
I think that is a highly empowering framework. It reminds you that you are still the director of the project. The AI is simply your very fast, very capable production crew.
That's a great way to look at it.
To summarize this deep dive, we have to completely reframe our relationship with artificial intelligence. It is not a vending machine where you deposit a lazy prompt and expect a brilliant answer.
It is an active, collaborative support system.
If you take the time to capture your messy original data, organize it in a frictionless digital workspace, and use the AI to refine it into a categorized database of secondary data, you unlock a massive operational advantage.
A huge advantage.
You build a compounding library of your own best thinking, which you can continuously adapt and deploy without ever staring at a blank screen again.
You know, this raises an important question, one that builds directly on the implications of this entire workflow.
What's that?
We understand that the AI requires our raw, idiosyncratic original data to function properly.
Right.
And we know that the AI refines that into highly structured, syntactically perfect secondary data.
Yes, the polished output.
The user then internalizes that polished secondary data to inform their future ideas and projects.
Yeah.
At what point does that cycle tighten? If we constantly rely on the AI's logical, structured framework to refine our thoughts, does the AI's way of processing information eventually begin to subconsciously shape the very nature of our original ideas before we even type them into the sandbox?
That is a profound tension to consider. Are we simply training the AI on our unique perspective? Or is the AI subtly training us to think in a more standardized, machine-readable format?
It's something we really need to watch out for.
That is exactly the kind of critical thought we need to keep in mind as we integrate these tools deeper into our lives. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a great discussion.
The next time you sit down at your keyboard, try stepping away from the vending machine model Implement the request and support framework, feed the system some genuine original data, and see how much faster your own internal database begins to grow. We will see you next time.